So one thing I hate about the second generation of Mazda 3s is that giant smile on the front end, but we're not actually gonna do anything about that today. The only other thing I really hate about this car is the steering wheel, and we'll be changing that with this one. This is a first generation Mazda Speed 3 steering wheel, and I got it out of my white Mazda Speed 3 parts car. I do understand for steering wheels, it seems there's many aftermarket options. When it comes to anything related to styling, there's a lot of opinions on what looks good. For me personally, I feel like Mazda came short with the second generation Mazda 3 steering wheel. I don't like the overall design of the steering wheel, with the gray at the bottom and the way the buttons are shaped on the side. I find the first generation design to be a lot sleeker and have aged better. But using this steering wheel is not without its drawbacks. For example, the second generation Mazda 3 has the hands-free Bluetooth disconnect and connect for the cell phone on the steering wheel, while this one doesn't. But honestly, it's not much of a big deal because with the newer head unit, I just answer my phone directly from it. So first thing I do is clean the Mazda Speed steering wheel with warm water and dish soap.
Alright, so with the steering wheel all nice and cleaned up, now I'm just going to take out the OEM wheel in the Mazda 3 to be able to compare the wiring harness that's in this one to see if it's the same or if I'll have to switch any wires around from this one to the first gen Mazda Speed steering wheel. Alright, so I got both steering wheels out of the car. I just compared them quickly to see how the harness is and how different they are. Looking at them, the airbag harness bolts up for either, so I can hook up the airbag without touching the harness. On the other hand, the harness for the cruise control and the volume control, I'll have to tamper a bit with that to unhook it because the plug that goes into the main harness is not the same, so I'll have to unhook that. Also, I did notice that the horn is a little bit, it's set up a little bit different. On the second gen steering wheel, the horn is actually part of the airbag, while as the first gen, it's part of the steering wheel. When your heart is racing, racing, and you feel like you got nowhere else to go.
If you're curious to see how I wired up the steering wheel, these are pictures of the second gen plug and harness. And this is a picture of the first gen harness with the second gen plug. Alright, so the steering wheel is all wired up in the car, and I gotta say overall I'm really happy how the steering wheel looks in the car. I think it looks way better than it did beforehand, and there's still some gray on the steering wheel, so it kind of blends with the interior. It really looks OEM and it has a really nice feel to it, and honestly it looks great in the car. So far for the buttons on the steering wheel, so I can turn on and off the cruise control. Right now the car's in storage, so I can't really test out the cruise control if it's fully functioning. One thing that's a bit off is that I can turn it on with the on button, but to turn it off, it's using the resume accelerate button. So I'm not sure if I miswired 2 wires or it's just the module for the cruise control for the steering wheel. It's not communicating well with the actual car itself. So we'll have to see when I take out the car out of storage to see if the cruise control is actually working. On the other hand, for the audio control, everything is working great. So I can turn up the volume and I can turn it down. I can skip a song or switch a channel, and I can also switch the modes. Another neat little thing that I wasn't sure if it was going to work is that I can mute and unmute the stereo, because the previous steering wheel didn't have that button, so I wasn't sure if it was actually going to work, because the other steering wheel had the pick up and answer phone, which this one doesn't have, but it has the mute. So this is actually working with the head unit, which is pretty neat. Speaking of the head unit, if you'd like to check out how I installed the dash cam, backup camera, and the head unit itself, go check out this video right here where I go over the whole process. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.